Afternoon. All right, we're gonna do the big one. The review of the HD36 after I milled a bunch of lumber. Had to make obviously a big decision of what mill I was gonna buy. Investing in the Norwood family and what I think about it now. I'm going to do this off the top of my head. I said I was going to write it all down, but I'm going to do this off the top of my head. And if you don't want information about sawmills, and if you don't really care, if you're looking for some entertainment value bullshit, then this is probably not the video for you to watch. Probably should just click off now and I'll see it in the analytics. But if you're looking for information about sawmills, then this is probably going to be a video that you might want to see. So once upon a time, I had a decent woodworking business. I got into chainsaw milling, sold slabs for a few years, started building my own saws, and all of a sudden became a legend in my area as the guy to bring saws to, because I built my own saws, and this guy knows how to sharpen. And if you have a question about chainsaws, this is the guy to go to. So I was selling slabs, and the business was good. Then COVID hit, and COVID threw a curveball into everything. And what it did was it pushed me out into the field. I live on Cape Cod, and here on Cape Cod, people fled the cities and they came to Cape Cod as a refuge to get away from COVID restrictions. And they said, we'll go down to our summer house and we can go outside and we can go to a restaurant and nothing's closed. We can, get away from these big lockdowns and the masks and the whole 9 yards. And they all came here. Very wealthy people. And that led to a boom in my area. And then people started saying, hey, we want to build an outside patio or an outside 3-season cottage, or we want to improve our backyard. And they started hiring very high-end landscape companies that hire people like me to do complicated woodworking jobs for them. And business was good. Just getting into the tail end of that and the downside of that. So as I was getting burned out, working out in the field and wrecking my body every day, I had made a decision that this was going to become a reality, that I was going to get a sawmill so that I could ensure my retirement as I walked away from the building business. That what am I going to do? I'm still young, I'm only 55. So what am I going to do going forward if I walk away from having to deal with every Tom, Dick, and Harry shitbag out in the field, building, their crap to them as they gripe over paint color. What am I going to do? Now, I could have kept milling slabs and doing the woodworking business, but to be honest with you, there's not a whole lot of money in it. And what I mean by that is everybody in the world got into the slab business, and you saw that in the sawmill business a little bit, where when COVID hit, sawmills went from you can get one tomorrow to 2-year wait. And that's because lumber prices spiked and everything went nuts. And people like me, I'm not going to say that I'm unique in that fashion, but people like me decided, hey, I can mill some lumber in my area and make a living. So everybody started buying sawmills, and we kind of got caught into the same trap. So what I did for a couple of years was I was watching delivery dates and trying to decide which mill I was going to buy. And I'm in a unique situation that I learned from business as I was younger. I grew up in the trades, and the construction business. I've been wealthy, I've been poor, I've gone every different direction. But I learned one thing, and that is that debt is the enemy. And that I was going to run businesses that I could stay debt free. And I've lived that way for the last 15 years to as a principle of how I live. And that factors into the decision of what to buy, because I could have bought anything. Now I want you to look around, because I don't want to come off as someone who's just talking shit. I want you to look around. We own our home, our property right by the ocean. All this land back here, all this land over here. Obviously the Bobcat was part of the decision. All my equipment, my vehicles, everything. And that was part of a critical part of the decision that I wanted to make in purchasing a sawmill. I wanted to be able to buy something that I didn't have to finance. So that left me in a price area. Let's just say a price area. I had chainsaw mills. I can mill bigger than this mill can mill. I can move it with the Bobcat. So, and I had been doing that. I have 5 mill saws. I have mills out to 60 inches. I have 96-inch rails that I haven't bought a bar and chain for yet. But there's no future in that for me at 55. I need to think about what's happening to my body as I'm out building these projects, and it's killing me. So in a sawmill, I was looking for several parameters. Something that could cut 20 feet long. By the way, this mill won't do it. Will not cut 20 feet long. And that was a mistake on my part. But I can add on, so it will, and I will add on, so it will, because it was a mistake in my purchasing, which I'll describe in a couple of minutes. But something that I could buy cash, something that could cut 20 feet long, something that was at least upgradable to hydraulics, because my wife, who has some complicated health issues, wants to be part of the business. Now, she worked with me out in the field for a few years, and she really beat the crap out of her body, and it drove her away from me, from working with me. And now she wants to do this. This is going to be her retirement. So she wants a hydro mill. But the problem is that I wasn't willing to lay out the cash for a hydraulic mill. Now I could have. I have the money to where I could have laid out the cash for a hydraulic mill. The problem is what is my comfort level? All the crazy shit that's going on in the world today, I'm not sure that I'm comfortable with laying out that much of what we have into a mill. So I had a number in mind, and that number, let's just say, for your sake watching this, and if you're still watching, then God bless you, but for your sake, let's just say that number was around 10 grand. Right? And that might sound foolish to some people. Some people are going to say, well, you can't get a hydraulic mill for 10 grand. You're right. But 10 grand was about what I was comfortable with paying out for a mill. And then I was watching delivery times, and I didn't want my money tied up for 2 years. So I was staying away from, Woodmiser and some of the other mills that were saying, 26, 28 months and so on and so forth, because I didn't want my money tied up for a couple of years. Well then, so I'm kind of clicking through the interwebs, I start to see Norwood's delivery times coming down. Now I'd already narrowed it down to basically 2 mills. I wasn't going to go with an entry level, although I thought that it might fit us, but I wanted to be bigger than that. So I needed a bigger than entry level mill. And also I wanted hydraulics. So that narrows it down. If you're in that kind of area, that narrows that down to a Woodmiser LT35 or an HD36v2. Those are the only two mills that fit into that category, money-wise, size-wise, so on and so forth. So it was between those two. And I was really, really close to purchasing an LT35, but it was just a little more money than I felt comfortable in laying out. So to get an LT35 Woodmiser, you're talking about $25,000, fully hydraulic. Similar specs to this. Woodmiser ran a Black Friday sale where they had this mill advertised at $9,800, and then a starter package to go with it. I decided that it's time to pull the trigger. I said, you know, $9,800, 10 grand, I'm in. I can do it. For this size mill, no hydraulics. I'll add the hydraulics later. And just to give you a reference to the LT35, to add full hydraulics to this mill, you're talking about 35. So it's another 10 grand, round numbers. So I called up Woodmiser. First I did the online worksheet, and it came out to like 15 something, what I wanted. You know, this is what I want, and it came out to 15 something. So I called up Norwood, and I said, what's going on here? You know, you're advertising at 9,800, and I fill out the thing, and it's coming out to 15 grand plus. And it was, oh, well, you know, we got delivery, we got tax, we got this, we got that. You wanted the 23 horsepower, blah, 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 and that equals 15.5. So I'm on the phone with him, and I deleted the 15 horsepower. The 23 horsepower. I deleted the 23 horsepower, went down to 18 horsepower, and said recalculate. They recalculated, and it came out to 14.5. And I said, go. Let's do it. So it was 30% more than I was willing to spend, almost 50% more than I was willing to spend. You know, if you break the 14.5 into thirds, it was about a third more than I was willing to spend. But, you know, I went and I sat down and I said to the wife, I ordered a sawmill, and she's like, awesome. And I spent 14.5, and she's like, okay. You know, it's going to be good for us. It's okay. And, you know, that kept me up a lot of nights. But what I ended up getting was a 20-foot long deck, an 18 horsepower mill that will cut 30 wide, a step above a entry-level mill. And, you know, I've seen all the advertisements on the deck and stuff like that, and it showed up, and we put it together, and you know, here we have it. We're milling lumber, we're selling stuff, we're kicking off our business, Pirate Solutions Forestry. Now where am I? What are my regrets? What are my likes? What are my wants? What are my needs? What do I love? What do I hate? And that's what leads to this video. And if you're still hanging on, you're in the same boat as me. You are the people that I'm talking to. The people that have already signed off, screw them. I am not here for entertainment value. I'm not going to send my wife out here in a pair of yoga pants, you know, and take still shots of her on the mill to get people to watch my videos. I don't care whether people watch or not. I'm here for educational purposes only. I'm not monetized. I want to give you the truth so that you can make a decision about what you're going to buy, so it works for you and you can use it. That's what's important to me. My name is important to me. That people say, you know, you want a saw fix, go take it to Bill. You want to ask a question about sharpening, go take it to Bill. Your saw doesn't cut, go take it to Bill. You want lumber, go get it from Bill. That's what's important to me. So I'm going to tell you the truth about this Norwood and about my experience and what I've learned. What I've learned so far is that I wish I'd got it a little longer, and I will add 4-foot section because I want to be able to cut 20. Why? I don't really know. Have I gotten an order yet for a 20-foot? No. But I want to be able to cut 20 feet. Now I realize that I've seen people cut 20 feet on little mills and slide the log and the whole 9 yards. And I can always take a 20-footer and cut it with my chainsaw, 2 sides, drop it up here, cut it, slide it down. I've got a machine, you know, that can lift 5,000-6,000 pounds. I can slide it down and cut it. I understand that. But I want a mill deck that'll cut at least 20 feet, probably longer, probably looking closer out to 24. So this is in a temporary location right now, but it's probably going to end up at 24. Cut. Let's talk about the mill. See what your view looks like. I'm going to take the, can barely see through my sunglasses, but you can see the end of the mill. I'm going to take the tarp off it. We're going to change out a blade because I got to sharpen the blade. And we'll talk a little bit about what it is that drew me to the Norwood, and I'm either angry about or I'm happy about. So far, I'm pretty happy. Now, are there things that I'm mad about? Yeah. Do I get paid for anything that I say right now? No, I get nothing. I am not sponsored by anyone or anything. I am the old, you know, the old adage, the sentient being who takes care of himself. And that's all I want out of this not so crazy world, is everybody to leave me alone. I just want people to stay out of my yard. And, you know, unless you're coming to buy something, you know, tell me at the end of the year what I owe for taxes and I'll pay it, and so on and so forth. If I run out of money, I'll make more. But what do I like and dislike about this mill? So I think what we have to do, I'm going to swap out a blade here. I was going to talk about the mill deck first, but I think we'll talk about the saw head first, since it's right here. The saw head itself, I love the construction. I like the 4-post construction of it. Let me show you around a little bit. Don't want to forget to do that. Now, most of you can see this online, but it's going to be hard for me because my new glasses won't see through the viewfinder with the sun. But I like this 4-post construction, big, beefy, heavy things. I like operating on this side versus the other side where the sawdust is shooting out. I was unsold on the 18 horsepower. I was really nervous about that when I ordered it. I was really nervous about that. Should I have spent the extra $1,000 to get the 23? Well, so far, I've cut some monster shit. You can go back and look at my videos. This 18 horsepower laughs at everything I've thrown at it. It's nothing like some of the videos you'll see where somebody's running you know, a Woodland Mills HM 122 or 126 or even a 130, and you see them going through a log and you can hear the motor bogging, and They got wavy cuts because they can't keep their feet per second up on the blade, on the band, and so on and so forth. Yeah, this 18 Vanguard powers through everything I've thrown at it so far. Now we're going to be testing that out. I've already maxed this thing out round-wise and lengthwise. We're definitely going to test that out on some oak, and you know, I'm in a hardwood area, so right now I've got oak and ash and elm and walnut and everything here in the yard. Locust, black locust. We're going to test all that out, but so far the 18 horsepower has been great. The water delivery, son of a bitchin' thing, my DRO keeps turning itself on. The water delivery system, a little finicky at first, works great. Make sure you back a little bit. One thing that I will tell you about the water delivery system that I've found out through trial and error is they tell you at Norwood not to run diesel in this. Do not run diesel in this. I am convinced 100% that diesel was causing me to throw bands. I would go in there and I'd throw a band and the tracking was perfect and it was cutting perfect and everything, but my wheels were slick like ice. Now, I can tell you, I'll let you see this rather than tell you. I only want to tell you the truth. What diesel did was, diesel kept everything perfectly clean. My bands were like beautiful, just like brand new. Wheels were perfectly clean. Now, I cut yesterday without diesel, and you can see some sawdust buildup on this wheel. I don't know if you can see there's the edge of it right there, because I just wiped some off. So you can see sawdust buildup on this belt. Okay? That's concerning to me. I'm running a mix of Pine Sol water and Dawn dish soap right now, and for the first time I'm getting a buildup on my belts. I'm also seeing a little wear on this belt too. See that right there? Oh no, I take it back. I'm wrong. It's not wear on the belt, that's the decal. I love the way this was all put together. And this is going to be pretty in-depth, but hopefully you can still see, because I can't see through the viewfinder. This clutch was a bear to get installed. As far as this can only go in one spot, and this can go in multiple spots. And I just didn't like the way it lined up. Now, I still am not crazy about it, because the clutch doesn't line up great turned this way. If I turned it around, it lines up better, but I knew that wasn't right. But lined up this way, it's inside this band wheel a little bit, so that, I don't know if you can, if I can show you that this belt, when it goes onto the band wheel, is kicked to the side a little bit. And I've played with this quite a bit, trying to get it perfect. This is where I ended up so that I can't hear any noise and there's no binding when it goes around. So this is where it stayed. You can shim this pulley, but this was one of the hardest things that I had to do with putting this head together, was to get this clutch on. What I found to do it was, there's a collar behind this that needs to be tightened. And when you put this on, what you want to do is you want to put that collar on tight. Not tight, but tight enough so it can just barely move. tighten this bolt down so that the clutch is fully seated, then take it off, the collar's stuck in place, and tighten the collar down. On the videos they show you tightening the collar down, you know, holding it in place and trying to get it in the right spot. That doesn't work. The way I did it is the best way to do it. I don't like the fact that the face of this clutch is open to the sawdust area, but that's the way this is meant to be. It's the way it's made to be, the way it works. The other thing that I don't like about the saw head, I understand the need for them. See if I can see through there. Yeah. Are these two safety kill switches. These are cover presence switches to make sure that the covers are on when you start the mill, and if the covers aren't on, you can't run the mill. Now, a lot of people just leave these out, and I kind of wish I had. What happens with my mill is that I have them adjusted so that the wands stick out as far as they possibly can, so they have the best opportunity to catch the covers when you shut them. Back you up to show you this. When you set this mill all the way down to like a 1-inch high cut, this part of the mill rests on the carriage, the front right here. And what it does is it pushes up on this, and it pushes up on the other side, and it causes the covers, because the covers go around this, so they're actually lower than this surface, causes the covers to distort. And when they distort, because they're held here and here and here and around the outside there, they distort out in the middle. So when you lower this down to a 1-inch cut, the cover goes like this, and when it comes out, it disengages these and the motor will quit and it won't start. So I'm not crazy about that. Now, simple solution, these are on a rocker groove on one of the screws. It's curved like this, both of them. I can take a Dremel tool in there and make that curve bigger so that they stick out more both ways, almost straight. You almost want them so that this turns almost 90 degrees. They stick out straight so that when any bit of pressure on them kicks them off and it'll run. And I will do that. I just put these zip ties on the other day because I was trying to cut a 1-inch board and I couldn't get it to run. The sawdust out, nothing. It would shut off every single time. It pissed me off. So I zip tied them instead of just cutting them out. And I said, you know, I don't want to take them out. This is a fix for now. Ran great, made my cut, all done. Bob's your uncle. But the fix to that is to get these turned more so that the back of this rotates up and this is sticking more straight out. And this one rotates more this way on the bottom so that this sticks more straight out, so that even if the cover deflects, it's still tripping these off. And that's going to take some Dremel work to do that. Band wheels, construction of this, great. Show you one little shitty point. If you want to, like me, you want it to run diesel, my little bottom latch here for the cover is a nice little screw coming through right here. Well, I can show you this better than I could tell you. I hope this is showing up because I can't see through the viewfinder. See all the scratches right here? Those scratches are when this thing throws a band and the band hits the plastic right here. Well, it goes right over and hits that screw. And that knocks teeth off the band. I have 2 of them now that has knocked teeth off of. So I'm thinking I'm gonna take something and put it over that. I don't know how long it will last if I ever do throw another band, but hopefully now that I'm off of the diesel I won't throw bands. But that or just delete this altogether here. Don't know exactly how I do it yet, but I could come up with a way. Delete the screw altogether, because that's right where the bands come across, right where the teeth hit, and it knocks the teeth off. And for something as simple as throwing a band off the front, you know, it wrecks a $30 band. So that's what's going on with this. We can move backwards. So we'll come on to this side of the mill. I'm going to try to get you from the side because I don't want to be in the way. This adjustable operator station I like. We started with it too high. What was happening was, when the mill was all the way up, we were hitting it when we go to turn this lever. So I put this up way high. When we go to reach up and grab it, we were hitting this and we were kicking off the throttle. So we dropped it down. It's more comfortable here. It works better here, fine. The throttle linkage, and this is going to be pretty in-depth. So again, if you're just looking for a quick video that someone's just going to say, buy this mill, buy that mill, this is the wrong video. This is going to be in-depth. The throttle linkage on this, there's no directions or anything that show you where this should go. We know that they go through these two holes, but then from here, there's a question of where it goes from here. We did our best to make some educated guesses of the best place to put these. This one right here goes to the on-off for the water. There's a plunger in here. These two screws, there's a plunger that goes like this, and when you pull on the handle, pulls the plunger back and water flows to the blade. The other one is the throttle, and the throttle has to snake its way through here. You see we ran it through one of those holes, and then it kind of coils here and goes underneath the fuel tank, and the motor actually came with a throttle mount there, and that's a little finicky to get set up. You have to make it so that when you pull that, it pulls the throttle to full throttle. So I will let you look in here, and what you're looking for is right in here. Oops, move the mill away. I'm going to pull the throttle real quick, and you can see, hopefully, you can see that mechanism that comes all the way over there. Now that adjustment is all in there. You have to get it so that the cable is far enough this way so that at no pull, it's not pulling on that flapper. And that's behind the exhaust. So you have to take the exhaust off to get at that, which is a little bit of a pain in the ass. I would suggest that you keep that exhaust off. Now this motor came with the exhaust on. So I ended up monkeying around everything. I kept this guard off and monkeyed around everything to get it right. But it would be easier if, like in the book, it says that the exhaust isn't on and you put it on later. But it'd be easier if it wasn't on. But that is a complicated adjustment. There are this up and down mechanism. Get your back, get you on the ground so I'm not bouncing you all over the place. This up and down mechanism so when you bring it down, that weight of the head, it just doesn't fall to the ground, is tensioned by this screw right here with the spring. And I'll see if I give you a view of what's inside. Can't really, but it's a similar setup to what you see right there. It's cables wrapped around that shaft in there the same way, and you have to make sure you get those the right way. And it's a friction brake, so this right here is a friction brake. The looser you make it, the less friction. The more you make it, the more friction. And what you want is you just want it so that when you go down, when you let go, it doesn't move. And you can loosen that more. So if my wife's doing it and she's having a hard time turning it, you can loosen that off so it's easier, but you just want to take it off to the point where it doesn't move when you go like that, but it stays where it is. I don't really care about that as far as, you know, what do I think about that for quality? I think that it'll eventually fail, that these cables will eventually fray, they'll eventually break. Someday I'll have to replace that, but that's really not important right now. What I do love about this mill is the construction of the mill makes the mill head very stable. When you see me run this mill, there's no shaking or twisting, or, you know, when I hit full throttle, you don't see the mill jump like you do on a Woodmiser. You know that the Woodmisers, they like to do this, especially on their more expensive mills, a single column. The whole mill head is only supported by that left-hand column. Goes up and down on that, and this part cantilevers out here all by itself. And when the clutch engages, you see the mill head jump. This mill's rock stable in that respect. I didn't like the lumber scales they sent us. Didn't have a 5/4 scale, which I think is foolish. I ended up first buying a DRO for the wife because she doesn't subtract fractions the way I do as a contractor. And then I ended up getting this magnetic scale that has 4/4, 5/4, 6/4, 8/4. I'm sorry, that's 4/4, 5/4, 6/4. I can't read that one with my glasses right now. 1 3 is 7/4 and 8/4 color coded with allowance for the kerf. And I put this in here so that when I'm cutting, I have a scale out to 8/4. But I subtract fractions really fast, and I can subtract for the 1/8 inch kerf and do it on the fly just off our main scale off the deck over here. What else is going on here? This is the adjustable blade guide that you can move in, move out based on the size of the log. It's manually adjustable, obviously. There's some linear bearings in here. And one thing that has happened to us, and I'm not going to take you down here, you're going to have to take my word for this, but if you see that rivet right there is a stop. So when I push it in, I can't go any further. One thing that has happened to us is that my wife the other day came out to try to help me cut the last couple cuts, picked this thing up, and somehow got it past the stop. And when she went past the stop, the linear bearing track underneath came out of the linear bearings. And that caused me a 2-hour nightmare fixing it, because the screws, if you can see in here, the screws for the linear bearing, there's one right there, right here, inside. Get my hand in here backwards. That's one, and there's one on this side, and then the other two are under the battery box. So it would have been taking the mill apart to get at it, and I ended up fixing it the way that it was. But it could have been a nightmare for, I hate to say this, I don't mean to sound arrogant, but for anybody other than me, it would have been a nightmare. Now I know that there's some completely capable mechanics out there and that you probably could have fixed it too. I'm just saying from a percentage standpoint, for somebody new who's never been a mechanic before, that would have been a nightmare. When we added, I don't know if you can see this, we added a little line on here that don't go past this, and that's still not going to help. I mean, if you pick it up and you go past this stop, you're screwed. And I mean screwed. Mills down screwed. And there's no easy way to fix it short of taking the guide off and running it without the guide, and then taking this whole area apart to get at what you need to fix it. What do we got on the back side here? So we got water and fuel up top. I think I would like it better if the water tank was easily removable, but you know, I'm young enough so I can step up top, take this off, fill it. I can do the same thing with the fuel, but you have to do this. There's no two ways around it. You know, I might like it better if it was just a standard tank that I could just set up there and take down. This switch, the on-off switch for the water, I did end up having to zip tie this because this hose swelled because I was running diesel in it, and they say not to, so don't run diesel in your mills. But when you turn this on, this is wicked hard. I'm gonna probably replace this someday because this is this switch, nobody but me in my household could turn this. You have to hold it still and it barely moves. You only have to turn this over a teeny little bit, like, you know, a 1/16 of an inch is plenty of water for this mill. Plenty of flow. So why, you know, I don't know why they went with this. This just sticks up through a grommet in the tank. So if I wanted to empty this tank, I could just pull this out and it'll all dump on the ground. The adjustments for this mill head, which are very important. Matter of fact, important enough, I'm going to get you in closer. You see the yokes over here on the cables? Those are on both sides. So maybe you can see them through there. Yeah, I can lean around the corner without fucking the orientation. You see those in there, the yoke. Those adjustments are to get the mill head parallel to the log bunks and at the right height, so you can adjust your lumber scale here, your outside main lumber scale, to how high you are off these bunks. Those are finicky to set up, and this is important, so I'm going to sit down. You can't, if you watch the videos of Dave Boyd adjusting this, which Dave's great, and I would suggest watching all his videos. Please watch them over and over and over again, because you should know when you're putting this mill deck together. When we talk about this mill deck in a second, you need to know what the hell's going on. But if you watch Dave adjust those, Dave's, you know, like, oh, there's 16 threads per inch, so I know that one turns a 1/16 and I'm off a 32nd, so I'm going to go a half turn and bam, it's all done. Doesn't work that way. It just doesn't. What happens is when you adjust them, it doesn't move. And what you have to do is you have to adjust it and go up and down on the mill head and then come back down to where all the weight's on it again. And then you have to check it again. And then you have to adjust it again. And you have to do the same thing. If you just loosen that yoke, it seems that there's enough tension on these uprights that it won't allow it just to simply drop. So you have to adjust it, go up and down, adjust it, go up and down. Ours are adjusted perfectly right now. It's not a monumental task, but I'm just saying it's not as simple as what you watch in the video. What else was hard here? There is one other thing that we ran into behind that clutch. That if you can see the two bolts that are over the top of the clutch holding that the head cover on, behind that clutch, that needs to sit against the mill head, I mean against the engine. It bolts into this heat through this heat shield right here, I think, just off the top of my head, and against the front of the engine. And there's something in the way there. I can't remember what it was, but there's something in the way that keeps that thing off. You have to get it all the way in so it's flat. Would it make a difference if you didn't? I don't know, but I know that I've seen somebody else do it where they had to cut a bigger hole. All I know is that it didn't sit flat. I didn't like that, so we ended up making it go flat. Mill head wise, well, let's talk about dimensions while we're here. You know, actually, I'll talk about dimensions while I throw a blade on. You have, I'll pull this guide all the way over, hopefully without pulling it out of it past its stop. Okay, so that guide right now is hitting against, just so you believe me, I'm not going to misrepresent anything here. See, the guide is hitting against the cover. Okay. Between these guides right now, you have, well, you got 31 inches. All right, I'm going to give you a mea culpa here. I'm wrong. Before, well, let's show you why I'm wrong. I think I was just going to say this won't cut 31, but I'll show you why I'm wrong. Without getting you underneath the mill, if you can see this yoke right here goes around the tensioner, sits down around it, and the spring tightens up against it. They just sent me this block to raise this up a little bit so that, much better view. This is another one that's important. This right here, which is the top of the linear bearing, the rail that the linear bearing rides on, this right here was hitting on this when it hung down through the hole. They sent me this spacer to space this up so this could pass underneath it. Now, I had already figured that out, and on a huge log that I was cutting, I pulled out the cotter pin, I raised it up, I pulled this out more, and had already been through that. But I could only get 29 on it. And right now, to be honest with you, I think I'm wrong. I think that if I pull this all the way out until it hits that, hitting the cover, and I measure between the guides, because I thought that you had to take it off, I have 31.5 between the guides right now. So now whether that changes a little bit under tension, I'm not sure, but right now it looks like this will cut 31 wide. Now I'm going to say that I was wrong. As far as length goes, if I back this up a little, those black marks on my rail right there are where my mill stops, right there. I put on there with Sharpie. That allows me, and if you haven't watched some of my videos, watch one of the last ones, because I was cutting a 16-foot log on the last one, and the video shows it pretty clearly. This mill's supposed to cut 17.3 with the 4-foot addition. To cut 17.3, you're going to have to get your log almost under the head, up against the blade on the other end, and be right out here max to that spot. You know, 16 foot is long for this mill with a 20-foot deck. So I want to make that clear. Now, I did, you know, let's just, I want to just take this blade off, see what your view's like. Let's just take this blade off. I know this is getting long, and I apologize, but we're talking about why I chose this mill over going with really an LT35, which is its only competition at Woodmiser, really price-wise. So you're not talking about an LT40 at this point, guys. right? So if you want to say, well, you can get an LT40, no, you can't. Not for this money. You can't. LT40 is competition dimension-wise, but not price-wise. The competition price-wise for this mill, dimension-wise, everything, is an LT35. I wanted the ability, and this is going to be consistent amongst Norwood buyers, I wanted the ability to add the hydraulics when I wanted to. And that is something I can do on the Norwood and I can't do on the LT35. And that is almost the sole reason, you know, other than watching Dave Boyd's cool videos, of why I chose this mill. Now, your decisions are going to be your decisions. I understand that. You're spending your money, and if you're going to finance it, then who really gives a shit at that point? You might as well just sell your soul to the devil and finance it. Oops. Damn it, I had it. But I wanted to be able to buy it. And that little bit extra money, should have put a little tension on this side. And another thing, you have to push this in a little bit. You have to adjust your tension or you hit this. So a little bit of, just so that the band kind of stays on here. You have to line up your band before you go to full tension, or it's going to stay right where it is no matter what you do. So if both of your wheels are perfectly straight and coplanar, you put this band on with the gullet sticking out 1/4 of an inch and tension it up, that's where they'll stay. So you kind of have to just, when you put a band on, you have to kind of line them up. You want them fairly close before you tension it up. I'm just going to leave that much tension on. My cover's back on just so I'm ready to go next time. Don't have to worry about my kill switches killing me out here, and I'm a smart enough human not to run the mill with the covers off, so that's not really an issue. I understand there might be some jackwads out there that, you know, I've seen one bunch of forums where people make their own homemade mills, and guys running homemade mills with no covers on them, and it makes me cringe. And I'm not some safety Sally. I was an erector who built buildings up to 9 stories for years, so I'm not a safety Sally. This is what kicks out when that goes all the way down to 1 inch and that rests on there. That kicks this out like that, and it disengages the kill switch so that your motor won't run. There's that much flex in it. What it needs is, it simply needs just another one of these little strappy things right here, and it would solve the problem, which I may or may not do. But that's pretty much it for the mill head. As far as the guides go, which is another topic, you know, you've got the ceramic guides, which are over here so you can see them, versus rollers. Another hot topic in the sawmill industry. Maybe I'll raise it up. Just pull it up. Oh yeah, try to get the camera down. No, just take the extra 2 seconds and don't be a shitwad and just raise it up. See what your view looks like. Okay, so these ceramic guides here that guide the saw blade from what all they do is they bump the saw blade back when it gets out of direction. So it's cutting along, it should cut in a perfectly straight line. If everything's set up right and your feed rate and your feet per second on the blade's perfect, and the set on the blade's perfect and it's sharp, it's going to cut in a straight line. But what happens is when something's not perfect in your tracking or whatever, your sharpness, your set, this blade will start to deflect. And what happens is it'll either rise up or dive down. And when it does that, these guides are here to basically just bump it back on course. So you get, you know, these things in your cut. Now, the tighter you set them, they're supposed to be about 3/1000ths off top to bottom and about 1/8 of an inch, 1/16 to 1/8 of an inch on the back one that this goes back against. The closer you set them, the less you're going to take the parabolic curve out of your cuts. Now, I can tell you that, you know, I give it enough clearance. Now, this blade is in tension right now, so this is a bad example. I just want it to be able to tick up and tick down on both sides. If my blade's sharp, it's going to cut a straight line. If my set's right, it's going to cut a straight line. You don't need these. The only times these really come into play is in super difficult wood, if your blade's getting dull, or if you're not using the right feed rate, the right feet per second, as this keeping these teeth engaged in the wood is a huge thing. So when we talk about feed rate and feet per second on your travel of the teeth, that is to keep the teeth evenly engaged in the log as it's going through. Nice even sound like that. Again, it sounds infantile, but you want that even noise the whole way. If you come out of that even noise like that, then what's going to happen is this blade's going to wander a little bit because of that, because it's going to lose engagement and it's going to load the blade funny and it's going to make it do something weird. That happens for a lot of different reasons. You know, forget about just being dull, because you'll get to figure that out quick. And these last about 3 decent sized logs. Let's just, you know, we'll just say it the way it is. You can say board feet if you want. The general rule of thumb is 400 to 500 board feet. These last about 3 to 5 logs. I mean, about 3 logs. So unless you're debarking them and pressure washing them and the whole 9 yards, or if you had a, you know, a kerf cutter saw blade head here like you see on some of the LT40s and the LT50s and the LT70s, unless you have that, and I think Woodmiser makes one too, I mean Norwood makes one too, unless you have that, just about 3 logs, this thing's going to start to get dull, and it's a noticeable difference in push and sound. And I've learned that through running chainsaw mills for so many years, that the sound and the chip ejection is everything. You can tell when your saw is cutting good. When my saw on my chainsaw mill, even if I have a 60-inch bar on it in a 60-inch mill, as I'm holding it wide open and I'm cutting, if the chips are shooting straight out, I'm cutting good. And the noise is even. If I'm over revving, that's bad. And if I'm bogging it down, that's bad. And that's a wicked uneven cut. Same thing with this. It's the same thing. You want a nice even noise all the way through the log. And you can push these a lot faster than you watch on videos. If you watch some videos and you see some people, you know, going real slow through the log, most of the time it's a Woodland Mills video, because it's a way underpowered saw and they can't put the feet per second through, and the motor bogs down and it slows down, and that's going to give you, even on a sharp band, even with the guide set up right, it's going to give you this. Because you're not evacuating the sawdust fast enough, you're not running at optimal speed. And if you watch some of the Cooks videos, they'll tell you what that speed is, but you have no way to measure it anyway, so it doesn't really mean anything to you. All he can tell you is that you should look for that noise. That noise going through, nice and consistent, not super high pitched like when it's binding, like that. You don't want it changing, but you want an even noise all the way through the log, and it'll cut really flat. This also has wipers. I lube them with automatic transmission fluid. They wipe this rail with the ATF. They've done a great job, and they keep the rail nice and clean, which I know on some of the other mills is a big problem. Let's go on to the mill deck. I know this video is getting long, but it's important to me to do this, so I'm going to do it. I don't know how long it's getting. Over an hour. So the mill deck itself, the construction of this mill deck is in a class of its own. If you look at some of the other saw manufacturers, and you look at, take your pick. I won't even pick one. Take your pick. This mill deck is in a class of its own. It is, if you've seen the tests on it with them supporting it on the two ends and loading it with logs in the middle, that is impressive. It's so stiff that if you don't get it strung straight when you build it and when you tighten these bolts, you will never get it straight. Adjusting this foot will not take a dip out of the rail right here. I hope that makes sense. If there's a dip in the rail right here, and I adjust this foot up, that dip will stay in the rail. If you tightened this down with that dip in the rail, it will not come out. These pinch together because it's corrugated. I think that's the right word. It's bent like this, and they fit together like a clamshell. Or like two clamshells opposing each other, concave to concave. When this is tight, these are not going to move. I can, and I debated this on the way here right now, I could come over here with my Bobcat right now and pick this up in the middle and pick this mill up. Those ends won't sag. I'm fighting myself right now not to do it, but because we're over an hour, I'm not going to do it. If you have a trailer package, you can almost like stop now, because your trailer package is going to do away with a lot of, other than this being straight, it's going to do away with a lot of the rest of the stuff. These feet, please go back and watch my videos on making this with these feet. I had to make a modification to double nutting above them. The feet do not work the way they send them. The best thing that I can tell you, everybody doesn't have a concrete floor to put this thing together on. A perfectly flat concrete floor. If you're out in the wilderness putting this together, you have zero chance, zero, of getting this mill flat out in the woods putting this together. Zero. The only way that you can get it flat is when everything on this mill is finger tight and installed, and it's sitting, is going along with a level and leveling the entire mill as perfectly as you can capably level it before you tighten this mill frame together. And then, even if you do that, like I did, and if you watch the videos, you'll see what I did. With 8-foot levels and 4-foot levels across the other way, and all good levels, I have still ended up with, at these joints right here, with tracks, saw tracks that they're nice and even on the top, and when you pull the mill head across them, they don't make any noise. Listen. So you don't hear any tick, 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 tick as it goes across the joints, because they're all nice and even. I have still ended up, and especially on that other side right there, where this joint is right here, where even though they're nice and even here, they're dipped down like that. And what we have to do to fix that's a pain in the ass. We have to loosen all the top bolts except for the end one. You just want to crack the end one loose on these 4-foot sections so it can pivot around them. And then snap a pair of vice grips on here and then pry it and keep checking it with an 8-foot level until that comes up to flat on the 8-foot level, and then tighten it all back down and hope it stays there. And I'm still having trouble with the one on the other side. I've made it perfect in a few times, and it's not very low. Does it affect the lumber? Not really. It's not that low, but it's still low. This joint on the other side is perfectly smooth on the top so that the saw head doesn't even tick going across it, but it's like this. Those two tracks lean down, and it is something that I'll continue to fix. With all the time that I took to make this right, I still ended up with those problems all over this mill and had to fix them. We had to come out here one day with 8-foot levels and literally go to every seam and do what I just described to every seam to get these things flat. The string thing, you might as well not do it. I mean, you know, it'll get you to a starting point. It's not close enough for me. Is it close enough for rough sawn lumber? It probably is, and there's probably people that are going to watch this, like maybe Dave Boyd will watch this. He does comment every now and then, and he'll go, oh my God, this guy with the fucking 32nd of an inch over there, Jesus Christ. Maybe that's true. But in my business, I work to flat. And I set up all my tools and all my machine tools in the shops to be perfectly flat, and to, you know, my fences on my table saw square to my miter slots. My blade is set up with a dial indicator square to my miter slots. If I have run out in an arbor on a lathe, I machine it. If I have run out on a friggin' circular saw, I machine the flanges and the, you know, I work to flat. It's all I know. I don't know any different. So if you're okay with this mill being like this, then that's fine. And is it going to cut okay lumber? Sure it is. I guess. I don't really know. I just know that, you know, I want this rail to be friggin' flat from one side to the other. I don't really care about level. I do care about twist. I don't want the mill to be twisted like this. I want the mill to be flat, but I don't care about level this way. I really don't. I just care that this is a perfectly coplanar straight line. And I'm going to keep working to get that regardless of anything. The log stops, and if you watch my last video, hopefully you'll read the description on it and see something that I did mega wrong on that, which was dumb. The adjustable log stops, being able to adjust them in and out, is friggin' great, and it's uncommon. They don't have it on a lot of mills. Most log stops are fixed location. They just go up and down. These adjust this way as well. That's a big time savings. The scale on the log stops, so you can put them up and know how far you can't go down so you don't cut into them. Everybody's going to cut into them, but I'm going to tell you right now, that's a big time saver. With my package and what they sent me, I got an extra one. Having 3 here is great. I think that log turn assist thing, I don't know if you watch any of Norwood's videos, you'll see that log turn assist thing. So far has been fairly useless. They sent me an extra station to move a log stop down here if I want to. We put it down here at the end. They're awesome. They're just simply great. You can set them up square if you think that's going to square your log. It's not. You're still going to need a square to check them off the bunks. You're not just going to roll it up against those and call it square. It just doesn't work that way. I did have to, in the sake of being thorough here, I don't know how I'm going to show this. Actually, maybe I'll get you right here. I'll show you like that. So you're not going to be able to see what I'm talking about, but it'll make sense. So on these log stops, the front side, I can't take them right out. They got pins on the bottom. If you see this part right here that's welded onto the square tube, the front side of this stuck proud. And when we squared them, you had to take that into consideration. You actually had to leave a gap and see it and try to eyeball the gap for consistent. I went in and ground those off so they were flush. And I had to do it on every one. So if you see that log stop and that one there, I had to grind that face off flush on every one. So now they're all perfectly, maybe I can get you from the other side, you can see better. I'm trying to give you the best review I can. So right here, I don't know if you can see the color difference. Right here, when you came up this line, this welded section on the top that holds this wheel, which they work great, stuck out. And I had to grind it off flat on all of them. Squaring the mill, like if you watch Dave's video, Dave, you know, throws a friggin' bar under it or a PV or something, and he goes, you know, he checks it with a square right here, and it kind of goes like that. It's all good, done. We did that. The problem was, though, that if you look down this rail, when this is all finger tight, this rail in the middle was laying over like this a little bit. You couldn't see it. I only saw it when I put the string on, and the string was lined up in the middle of the sawmill track here and on the end, and the middle of the track was out like this much. So the middle of the mill was laying splayed open like that, at finger tight on the bolts. Well, that threw our square off. So when we threw a square in here, it looked like, oh shit, yeah, it's square. You know, and we checked it multiple times before we tightened it. Well, this is where we ended up, guys. As much as a pain, you know, as much as how meticulous I was in setting this thing up, and I hope from what I'm telling you that you can hear that in what I'm explaining. Drop that down. Take this down here, I'll show you what I ended up with. It doesn't make a difference, doesn't seem to make a difference. When this comes up against the stops, hopefully you're going to be able to see this. It's against the stop here. Put my finger in here. That's how far off this is. I put my whole finger in there. It's up against the stop. And I have a finger width on this side. And that's consistent. That's how far. Now, I don't know if this is machine, you know, welded together perfect or what the problem is. All I can tell you is that if you've watched any of my videos, you'd know this, but you know, if you watch me run the mill, there's no binding or anything. So, you know, it runs perfect, which leaves me to, if you look at that outside one right there, you can see it. That's at hitting here. So I'm that far out of square. Now, is this leaning or I don't know, but the mill runs perfect on the track, and I don't see any reason to fix it. It doesn't affect the cut at all. It cuts perfect. It cuts dimension. It cuts flat. We've done the stupid little veneer cut thing. It cuts great. Let me get you over here. Just sit down for a sec. Since it went this long, anybody who's hanging on trying to decide what mill you're going to buy, I am super happy with this mill. I love the product that Norwood sent me. I see a lot of Norwood bashing on the forums, especially on Norwood's site on Facebook. They have been nothing but gracious with me anytime that they forgot something, like they forgot, they didn't pack me this little 2-foot section of track right here. They left one of those out and 2 4-foot sections, which held me up kind of in the early winter from getting this mill running. But they got them right out to me. Whenever I ask for anything, they're great on the phone. They get it right out. They got me out that clip that holds that thing up. That, I mean, I could have done that with a zip tie. You know, they didn't need to send that to me. but they've been completely gracious to me with everything that I've done. Any question I've had, when you know, there were no instructions on these feet, and I understood how they went on, but my wife, being a school teacher, she had to have the instructions. So she called up Norwood and just full of piss and vinegar, trying to find out why we didn't have instructions on putting these feet on. And I'm like, honey, please don't. I know how to put them on. I know where they go. There's bolt holes there. And she had to have the instructions. They emailed them to her right away. They've been completely great with everything I've asked for. They didn't send me a box of 5 blades. I called them up. I said, here it is on the sales order. They got it right out. I got them right away. They've been great with me. I have no complaints about Norwood at all. I have no complaints about this mill overall. It cuts faster than I thought it would. Much faster. I was really nervous about the 18 horsepower. It cuts super flat. It cuts super straight. It cuts the dimension. Now, a lot of that is my being finicky and setting it up finicky. And that's going to depend on you. It operates the way it should, other than those stupid kill switches in the front. It went together. Now, this is going to seem controversial. I don't want it to be. Dave Boyd's videos are super. Don't listen to what he says about these are in bag this and these are in box that, because it's outdated. The bag numbers in the boxes are newer. You need to watch Dave's videos so you understand what you're doing. But when you put this together by yourself, first of all, it's going to take 3 times as long as you think it is. Second, you need to go through the manual step by step or you will miss something. I promise you that. I used to build equipment for a living. I grew up in a construction equipment shop as a kid. I put together tractors that would come in boxes. I have an extensive background in a machine shop, construction equipment, woodworking equipment, sharpening, watch my videos, tooth geometry, you name it, metalworking tools, lathes, the whole 9 yards. I've put together hundreds of machines in my life. This is a difficult build. It's only difficult because your expectations are going to be off of Dave's videos. If you watch Dave's videos and you think it's going to be easy, you are wrong. It's not an easy build. Now, if you've got a shop and 5 guys working for you, and you're putting it together on a concrete floor, and then you're going to throw slings on it and take it out to the back 40 and set it on a concrete pad, it's probably not going to be that big a deal. You got air tools. We went at this with 2 impact guns and somebody following behind us, putting screws in and torquing stuff down. And me, knowing what I was doing, and having watched the videos 100 times, and unfortunately I made my wife watch the videos, which was a mistake, because then she was constantly arguing with me. No, Dave says to tighten that. No, you can't tighten that yet. You know, these end brackets, a perfect example. You can't tighten these until this mill's level. Because if you tighten this and this mill's twisted, you will never get that twist out of the mill. So that is not in the videos. All right, so if this is not coplanar with the other end, you cannot tighten this down. You have to make sure that this mill is level and coplanar before you tighten these end brackets and this reinforcement bracket down here. If you tighten them down and you are twisted like this, which is real easy to do and it doesn't have to be very much, if you are a little bit twisted and you tighten these, you will never get the twist out of it. It will lock these rails into place and that twist will never come out. So those are things that I knew. So as my wife was arguing with me, you know, Dave's just tighten them down now, I had to try to explain to her and sell her on the fact that, look, I know what Dave says, but I'm telling you, I can't tighten this until I know that it's coplanar with the other end, or I'll never get it square. And even with all that, I can still put my finger in right here. So capacity wise, this will hold any log I throw at it. Dimension wise, I was wrong. Mea culpa. This will cut 31. I just proved it on video. I don't know why the day that I was cutting the big log that I said maxing out, this one of my videos, maxing out the HD36v2, why I couldn't cut 31 wide. But I'm telling you right now, tape measures don't lie, and I can cut 31 wide based on the tape measure. 17.3, fucking forget about it. Absolutely forget about it. You cannot cut 17.3 on this mill with a 20-foot deck. Not unless you get a 2-foot extension on the back. Which I think that everyone should. Every single person that orders this mill, you should put the 2-foot extension on the sawhill side, the saw head side on the back. So your saw head comes back more. Because there's no weight involved there. You don't really care if it's level or even. You can get it as close as you want. It's not going to make a difference, because by the time the saw head comes up onto the reel track to do cutting and you get to that bunk where your log is, you're going to be flat anyway. But that will at least allow you to get close to, you know, what you want to cut. I wouldn't put one on the far end. I'd put a 4-foot extension with feet that I could level, so that the saw head will ride all the way through a 20-foot log flat. Because those little extensions that snap on here, they have an adjust screw down here to tilt them. I don't think I'd trust that on that end. But down here, just to have the mill rest there, yeah, no problem. You're gonna need to come up with a way to keep the wind from blowing this saw head down the track. You see how easy that goes? My mill is perfectly level front to back, and this saw head is just like, you know, like gravy. It just, when the wind hits this, it's gone. I put a clamp on the rail, so when I put it to bed, then it's not gonna go smashing down the other end. You gotta come up with a way. I'd like it if Norwood had something on here. I think they do on the trailer package, but I'd like it if Norwood had something on here that you could just simply, there was a hole all the way through that you could just, you know, there's a captured pin here that you can just go chink and be done with it. That'd be a nice touch. Other than that, guys, I know that this is crazy long. For those of you that hung on to the end, if you have any questions, you type them in and I will answer them. I promise you. I'm not monetized. I don't care about views. I don't care about shares. I don't care about subscribes and likes and shit like that. I really don't care what you do. But I am going to tell you the fucking truth. And if you have any questions about this mill, ask me and I will tell you the truth. I think that if you make this decision, you are making a very good decision, because I can add hydraulics to this mill, even in pieces, as my business grows seamlessly, because everything's already drilled and ready for the plumbing and the bolt holes are already in place. And I don't have to finance myself to the hilt to get into a mill. Now, would I like an LT40, an LT50, an LT70? Sorry about the residual noise out here. LT40, 50, 70? Sure, that'd be awesome. Can I afford one? Yeah, I can. But do I want to lay that kind of cash out? No, I don't, because right now I get no payment and I'm into this and I own it. Every single thing that comes off this mill right now goes into my pocket. And that is, there's no limit to what you can do with this. There are people with a lot less mill than this that have made a living sawing lumber. I will promise you that. A lot less. You know, there are people that have become millionaires sawing with an LT15. And I'm not talking about the wide, I'm talking about the start kind of model. There are people that have made a lot of money sawing with woodland mills. If you're into it for making money, commercial grade, this is your bitch right here. This is a monster. It's a monster mill. Does it have some problems? Sure it does. If you can't fix these problems, you're probably getting into the wrong business. But I know this, Norwood will help you out. So what you read on these forums is all bullshit. It's absolute bullshit. I've never had Norwood deny me anything. Zero. And they owe me nothing. You know, they don't have to answer my calls, but they do. Now, I'm lucky in the fact that I don't need a lot of calls. I can make anything on this mill. But I will tell you this, Norwood's not ignoring my fucking calls. And when, you know, aside from wait time, you know, if you order something and there's a wait time on it, is there a wait time? Sure there is. Look, what's your options at that point? Order an LT70 right now. What's your wait time? 32 months? Seriously, I'm being honest. You know, what's your wait time on an LT40 right now? 28 months? And you're going to complain about waiting for a belt that you can go down to Napa and buy? Or, you know, a bearing? So, you know, I would suggest if you're useless and you can't take care of yourself and you don't have the capability of going to an auto parts store and matching up a belt, I would suggest you fucking buy extra ones. You know, because I'm sick of hearing the shit. You know, for those of you that hung on this long, ready for the rant. I'm sick of hearing the shit. I really am. I'm sick of seeing people bash Norwood. I think half of them are fucking paid, which in this society today wouldn't surprise me, because half the shit you see is paid. You know, but I think that they just put people on there, and it's very consistent. Somebody says, oh, well, my HD36, I can't get a part for fucking 6 months. And the people are coming on going, what part? I just ordered that part yesterday. I got it in 3 days. Show me a picture of your mill. And they all disappear. I think they're all paid. You say, oh, he's a conspiracy theorist. No, they're friggin' paid. This is a game to these people. They have people go on the site, claim to be an owner, and badmouth the product. I see it in Farmertech chainsaws. You see it Husqvarna and Steel. You see it Ford and Chevy. It's in, you know, a form of industrial sabotage. It happens in every manufacturer, and you see it in this. The only video that hit Norwood hard was Jesse, the samurai carpenter. Now, I will say this, I don't think Jesse was paid by anyone. I don't. I don't know Jesse. I came up in woodworking when I was learning joinery. I'm a joiner. I specialize in Japanese joinery. I watched a lot of Jesse. And I'm not going to say, you know, he's my friend, but I liked Jesse before he burned out and went, you know, spend $1 billion on his houses and forget about everybody that watched him, you know, and start running woodworking schools, which, you know, good for him. If that's the way he wants to make money, that's fine by me. But Jesse's videos on the Norwood HD36, that hurt Norwood. It did. It got the owner's daughter involved. It became a big blow up online, but that is the only one I've seen that had any credibility whatsoever with the problems that he had. Now, Jesse's a little bit of a prima donna. I'm not a prima donna. You know, I will drop my Snickers bar in a pile of dog shit and eat it. I am not a prima donna. The world needs ditch diggers like me, and I'm a ditch digger. I'm completely okay with where I am in the world. Jesse was complaining about, you know, he leaves his mill out in the weather, and he's complaining about, you know, screws rusting. Well, other than the saw head, my mill's been out in the weather since December. Let's walk around. Let's see if you can see anything. And I'll let you look. This mill's been out here since December. We'll see if we can find any rust. We'll actively look for it, okay? Now, even where I ground off those log stops, there's no rust, which I was concerned that when I ground those off, I was going to grind through the plating and it was going to rust. There's no rust on this mill. I'm sorry, Jesse. Maybe before they were using inferior bolts and shit. Maybe before, I'll give Jesse the benefit of the doubt, there was something wrong with what they were putting out, or it was a different manufacturer. But right now, there's no rust. This mill sat out here through the winter, and now into the spring, into April. I don't have a spot. I can't find you any. I'll try. Now, I'll admit I cover the saw head. You know, I just cover it with a tarp. I don't have some fancy, you know, Norwood cover, but there's no rust on anything other than those feet that are blued metal. Those feet right there, which they decided those are the backers for the clutch and the band wheels, and they decided that those would work in that application, and they suck. Just watch my video on fixing them. It was a terrible idea. Whoever decided that was a good idea is just, they were just wrong. I'm not, you know, I said what I said in my video and I stand by it. You know, they were just wrong. But there's no rust on this mill sitting through the winter. Is it going to be like that in 10 years? Probably not. It's probably going to fade. It's probably going to weather. Will I have it under a cover someday? Probably. But right now, there's no rust on this. You know, my splitter, I used to cover my splitter. I don't anymore. You know, it's country line. Is there rust on this? Yeah, some on the bolts on the muffler there. There's some in the bed where it wore off the paint. But overall, you know, it comes down to paint job and quality, guys. You know, this splitter looks like it's almost brand new, for Christ's sake. For all the wood that this is split, the 7 years that I've had it, I mean, this thing's like pristine. And I expect this to be the same. I really do. I don't see any problems. So, you know, thanks for hanging out and staying on this long. Like I said, if you have any questions, hit me up. I'll do an update soon. I gotta call up Norwood and order a bunch of maintenance parts. I want to order new belts and bearings and stuff just so that I have them, and whatever else I can come up with off the top of my head, maybe some ceramics or something like that, and I'll let you know how it goes. But you know, they've been nothing but good to me. And if you go on these forums, Norwood's forum on Facebook, and you watch it, I mean, it's consistent with the other forums. Let's just put it that way. It's consistent. You got a bunch of shit bags trashing everything, no matter what anyone says. Anyone says, you know, I'm getting some wavy cuts. Oh, it's because you bought a piece of shit. Should have got a Woodmiser, blah, blah. It's woods, it's steel, Husqvarna, Chevy, Ford. Mindless, myopic drivel. It's just pathetic. And believe me, you know, I could have bought anything I wanted. And I did a lot of research. And this is what I decided on. And this is what I'm going to roll with. And I'm going to be good to it. And I expect it to be good to me. And if it's not good to me, I'm going to fucking tell you. Because I expect that my tools work as hard as I do. And that they give consistent results to what I expect. This so far does. And it has. And I'm its biggest limiting factor. You know, my time, my strength, my ability, my understanding of sawing a log is the limiting factor to this mill. This mill will do more than I can do. And I've milled a lot of lumber in my life. This is a plenty capable mill, especially for 14.5, guys. It's not going to be 9,600 like they tell you. It's going to be 14.5, and it's worth every penny from what I've seen so far. So I'll leave it there. Hit me up with a question. I'll answer you back. This is Pirate Solutions Forestry out.